The mahogany conference table stretched before me like a battlefield. On one side sat my family, mom, dad, and my younger sister Claire, all dressed in expensive suits that screamed old money. On the other side, I sat alone in my simple black blazer from Target, feeling every bit the outsider they'd always treated me as. Just sign the papers, Margaret, Dad said, sliding the stack of documents across the polished surface. It's for the best. Claire has the business degree. She knows how to run grandfather's company. I stared at the inheritance transfer papers, my grandfather's final gift to me, 51% controlling stake in Montgomery Technologies, worth over $200 million. He passed away 3 months ago, and his will had shocked everyone by naming me, not Claire, as his successor. I earned my engineering degree while working full-time. I reminded them quietly, I understand the technical side of our products better than anyone. Mom's perfectly manicured hand waved dismissively. Please, Margaret, working as a waitress and taking online classes hardly compares to Claire's MBA from Harvard. You're embarrassing yourself. Claire smirked, adjusted her Cartier watch. Don't worry, sis. You can keep your job in R&D. Someone needs to do the grunt work. 10 years of their constant belittling and favoritism flashed through my mind. Claire getting sent to private schools while I attended public. Family vacations I wasn't invited to because I was too busy working. The way they'd refused to help with my college expenses, forcing me to work multiple jobs while Claire got a free ride. But grandfather had seen something in me that they didn't. During his final months, we'd spent hours discussing his vision for the company's future. You have the heart of an innovator, Margaret, he told me. Claire sees dollar signs. You see possibilities. Now they wanted me to throw away his faith in me, sign over my birthright to the sister who'd never worked a day in her life. If you sign now, we'll give you a generous severance package, Dad added. Enough to start fresh somewhere else. It's more than fair. I touched the small key pendant hanging around my neck, grandfather's last gift to me. What about the new CEO interview? Shouldn't we wait until? The board already approved, Claire, Mom interrupted. This is just a formality. Sign the papers, Margaret. Don't make this difficult. I reached for the pen, saw the triumph in Claire's eyes. Then I remembered grandfather's words. When the time comes, trust your instincts. You're stronger than you know. No, I said softly. Excuse me? Dad's face darkened. I said no. I stood up, gathering my courage. I'm not signing anything. Grandfather chose me for a reason. Claire's perfectly painted lips curled into a sneer. You really think you can run this company? You'll drive it into the ground within months. Face it, Margaret, you're not qualified. You're not good enough. You never have been. That's enough. A commanding voice rang out from the doorway. We all turned to see James Morrison, grandfather's longtime attorney, entering with a distinguished-looking woman in an impeccable suit. Everyone, I'd like to introduce Catherine Chen, CEO of Chen Tech Industries and your grandfather's chosen mentor for the new CEO of Montgomery Technologies. My family's faces went pale as Catherine strode forward, hand extended, toward me. Margaret, she smiled warmly. Your grandfather told me so much about you. I've been reviewing your product development proposals. Brilliant work. I look forward to helping you take this company into the future. This is absurd, Dad sputtered. She can't possibly. Actually, Mr. Morrison interrupted, she can and she will. Your father left very specific instructions. He pulled out another document, including this USB drive, which he asked me to play for everyone once the attempted forced inheritance transfer was complete. My heart stopped. Grandfather had known. He'd known exactly what they would try to do. The conference room screen flickered to life, and there he was, my beloved grandfather, looking frail but determined in his hospital bed. If you're watching this, he began, then everything has happened exactly as I predicted. Margaret, my dear girl, I know they tried to bully you into giving up your inheritance. They never understood that I chose you not because of your degrees or credentials, but because of your character. Tears filled my eyes as he continued. To my son and his wife, I've watched with growing disappointment as you favored Claire and dismissed Margaret's potential. You thought an MBA mattered more than determination, more than integrity. You were wrong. And Claire, his voice hardened. I've seen how you treat the employees, how you view this company as your personal ATM. That ends now. Margaret will be CEO, with Catherine's guidance. If any of you try to interfere, He smiled sadly. Well, there are other documents in that safety deposit box that I'm sure you'd rather not have made public. The screen went dark. The silence in the room was deafening. This is just the beginning, Mr. Morrison said calmly. There's much more your father left for you, Margaret. Shall we discuss the rest privately? I looked at my family's shocked faces, Mom's theatrical near faint, Dad's purple rage, Claire's cold fury, and felt nothing but relief. A decade of their manipulation and emotional abuse was ending. Yes, I said, standing taller. I believe we shall. As I followed Mr. Morrison and Catherine out, I touched the key pendant again. Grandfather had given me more than just the company. He'd given me the strength to stand up to them at last. And something told me this was just the beginning of my story. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of revelations. In the private meeting with Mr. Morrison and Catherine, I discovered just how thoroughly Grandfather had planned everything. Your grandfather left you more than just the company, Mr. Morrison explained, opening his briefcase. The key you're wearing, it opens a special safety deposit box at First National Bank. Inside that box, I found decades of evidence. Documents showing how my parents had systematically embezzled company funds, emails revealing Claire's attempts to sell proprietary technology to competitors, and most shockingly, proof that they tried to have Grandfather declared mentally incompetent when he first suggested making me his successor. They never knew I kept records of everything, Grandfather's voice explained in another video. I wanted to give them a chance to change, to recognize your worth on their own. But they never did. Catherine Chen proved to be exactly the mentor I needed. A self-made billionaire who'd started as an engineer herself, she understood both the technical and business sides of running a technology company. Your grandfather reached out to me 6 months ago, she told me over coffee in her office. He said he'd found a kindred spirit in you, someone who saw technology as a way to improve lives, not just make money. Under her guidance, I threw myself into learning every aspect of the business. The board members who'd known Grandfather welcomed me warmly, sharing stories of how he'd built the company from nothing. Even more surprisingly, many employees came forward with their own stories of how Claire and my parents had mistreated them. Your sister tried to fire me because I wouldn't fudge the numbers for her, our CFO confided. Your grandfather stopped her. He always protected us from their worst impulses. But my family wasn't going down without a fight. They hired lawyers, tried to contest the will, even attempted to spread rumors about my competency. Their final desperate move came during my first board meeting as CEO. I stood at the podium, preparing to present my vision for the company's future, when the doors burst open. My parents and Claire stormed in, followed by a man I'd never seen before. This is Dr. Phillips, Dad announced triumphantly. He's prepared to testify that Father was mentally incompetent when he changed his will. We have documentation. Actually, Catherine interrupted smoothly, we have something more interesting. She nodded to Mr. Morrison, who started playing a video on the conference room screen. There was Grandfather, looking healthy and sharp, dated just 2 weeks before his death. He was speaking with Dr. Phillips himself. So you want me to declare you incompetent? Grandfather's voice was calm, amused even. And my son is paying you how much for this false diagnosis? Dr. Phillips on the screen shifted uncomfortably. Mr. Montgomery, Don't worry, Grandfather continued. I'm recording this conversation for my granddaughter Margaret. When she becomes CEO, she'll know exactly who to trust and who tried to betray her. The current Dr. Phillips turned pale, backing away from my parents. I need to leave. Oh, stay, Catherine smiled coldly. The SEC investigators would love to talk to you about medical fraud. I watched my parents and Claire deflate as they realized they'd lost everything, not just the company, but their reputations, their positions, their carefully maintained facade of respectability. You can't do this to us, Mom wailed. We're family? Family? I finally spoke, my voice steady. Family doesn't try to destroy each other. Family doesn't spend years tearing someone down. Grandfather showed me what real family means, supporting each other, believing in each other, building each other up. I touched the key pendant at my neck, drawing strength from it. You have 2 choices. Resign quietly from all company positions, sign the non-disclosure agreements Mr. Morrison has prepared, and walk away with your personal assets intact. Or, Claire whispered, her arrogance finally cracking, or we release everything. Every document, every email, Every recording. I'm sure the press would love to hear how the great Montgomery family tried to defraud their own father and daughter. They signed the papers within the hour. 6 months later, Montgomery Technologies was thriving. Our new line of medical devices, a project I developed in secret during my years in R&D, was revolutionizing patient care. The stock price had doubled. Employee satisfaction was at an all-time high. I kept grandfather's old office exactly as it was, hiding just one thing: a framed photo of us from my engineering graduation, the ceremony he'd attended alone while my parents were on vacation with Claire. "You see possibilities," he told me that day. Now, sitting at his desk, my desk, I finally understood. He'd seen the possibility in me when no one else did, and he'd given me the tools to prove them all wrong. Catherine stopped by one evening as I was working late. "Your grandfather would be proud," she said, looking around the office. "You've exceeded even his expectations." I smiled, touching the key that still hung around my neck. "I had good teachers. And your family?" she asked carefully. "Any word?" "I heard they moved abroad. Claire's trust fund will keep them comfortable but not extravagant. It's enough." And it was enough. I didn't need their approval anymore. I had something better: self-respect, purpose, and the knowledge that I'd proven myself not through cruelty or revenge, but through hard work and integrity. Just like grandfather taught me. That night, driving home in my sensible hybrid, some habits die hard. I passed the diner where I'd worked during college. On impulse, I stopped in. Sally, my old manager, was still there, greeting customers with the same warm smile. "Margaret Montgomery," she exclaimed, hugging me. "I saw you in the Business Journal, CEO of Montgomery Technologies." "Thanks to people like you," I told her sincerely. "You gave me shifts that worked with my class schedule, covered for me during finals. I wouldn't be here without help like that." An idea struck me. 2 weeks later, Montgomery Technologies launched a new scholarship program for working students pursuing STEM degrees. We called it the Rose Montgomery Memorial Scholarship, after my grandmother who'd always believed in education. The first recipient, Sally's daughter, who dreamed of becoming an engineer. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's living well, helping others, and proving that success doesn't require stepping on people. It requires lifting them up. Every morning, I wake up grateful, not for the money or the power, but for the chance to make a difference. The key around my neck reminds me of where I came from and where I'm going. I am Margaret Montgomery, CEO of Montgomery Technologies, and my grandfather was right. I see possibilities.